When Earth went silent, the galaxy leaned forward, expecting weakness. Instead, it heard the echo of boots marching. The first reports came from the Uran listening arrays on the galactic rim. Their operators thought it was a calibration error. Humans, after all, were noisy creatures, constantly broadcasting, leaking, transmitting, or blaring something. Songs, sitcoms, military orders, cat videos, political rants, weather forecasts, an endless stream of chatter. But then the silence stretched beyond a minute. Then an hour. Then a day. And in the Council of Concordant Species, that silence detonated like a weapon. High Chancellor Dravik of the Clithery leaned forward, his scales catching the dim council light. Perhaps their transmission towers malfunctioned. Primitive systems often collapse under their own inefficiencies. The statement carried that smug flavor only Clithery could produce. Part insult, part dismissal, wrapped in the certainty that no other species matched their refined superiority. Across the chamber, an Avrek ambassador clicked his mandibles. Incorrect. Their technology may be crude, but crude does not fail this suddenly, everywhere. I have cross-referenced over 100 frequencies. Earth has gone dark. The room vibrated with unease. Alien dignitaries whispered, translating in hushed tones. The void of human signal wasn't absence, it was presence. Like an apex predator in a forest suddenly not making a sound. When they finally summoned the human representative, he entered with disarming calm. Ambassador Jonathan Hale was not the sort of figure one expected to send shivers through a galactic council. He wore a pressed suit, archaic by interstellar standards, and carried himself like he was strolling into a university debate rather than an emergency summit. He smiled warmly, nodded politely, and placed a battered leather briefcase by his chair. "Good morning, or whatever approximation works for this time zone of yours," Hale said, voice easy, conversational. "Lovely chamber. Bit echoey, though. You'd think with this many species, someone would have invented better acoustics by now." The remark drew a ripple of confusion, half the chamber unsure if it was a joke, the other half already offended. Humans had a way of cutting across protocol with casual irreverence, and Hale wielded it like a surgeon's scalpel. Chancellor Dravik's voice rumbled, sharp as glass. "Ambassador Hale, explain why your world has ceased transmission. For centuries, Earth has saturated the void with noise. Suddenly, nothing. Not a whisper. Are you," he leaned forward, eyes narrowing, "hiding something?" Hale adjusted his cufflinks. Smiled again. "Hiding? Oh, Chancellor, no. Humanity's not hiding. We're just taking a break. You know, quiet time. Reflection. Self-care." A ripple of irritated clicks, growls, and hisses passed around the chamber. Ambassador Krev of the Talanthe, known for their blunt honesty, snapped, "Species do not simply stop. This was coordinated. What is Earth preparing?" Hale tilted his head as if the question was innocent curiosity rather than veiled accusation. "Preparation implies intent. Sometimes silence is just silence. Do you ever wonder why we spoke so loudly before? Why we made sure you all heard our music, our debates, even our commercials for toothpaste?" He let the question linger, and the counselors shifted uncomfortably. "Because," Hale continued softly, "we wanted you to underestimate us. Noise distracts. Noise entertains. Noise convinces predators that the prey is too busy singing to sharpen knives." The chamber went still. High Chancellor Dravik slammed his claw against the dais. "Empty theatrics. You expect us to believe humanity, an infant species barely clawing its way into faster-than-light travel, chooses now to play games with the Council?" Hale's expression never changed, though his eyes glimmered faintly. "Infant species? That's flattering. Do infants domesticate fire, split the atom, and turn their own star's heartbeat into power? Infants don't usually scare gods into writing cautionary myths. But I appreciate the compliment." He let out a chuckle. A light, human chuckle that landed in the chamber like a blade unsheathed. From the balcony, a younger delegate of the Silthari whispered nervously, "If Earth is silent, Then who watches their skies? Who speaks for their fleets? Hale reached down, tapped the lid of his old briefcase, and said almost gently, "We do. Always have. We just don't always narrate it for the galaxy's entertainment." The room erupted in competing voices. Some demanded sanctions, others called for investigation, a few whispered retreat. The sudden realization that they'd grown accustomed, even dependent, on humanity's background chatter unsettled them more than they admitted. Breaking through the noise, the HFY ambassador spoke again. His species had survived 3 galactic empires by recognizing predators early. His mandibles clicked with tension. "Ambassador Hale, is your silence a warning?" Hale leaned back in his chair, crossed one leg over the other, and offered that same polite smile. "A warning? No. Consider it an invitation." The chamber froze. "An invitation to what?" Dravik hissed. Hale's voice softened to a near whisper, forcing even the loudest species to lean in. To remember that sometimes, the scariest sound in the forest isn't the roar. It's when the roaring stops. He stood then, smoothing his suit, collected his briefcase, and added almost as an afterthought, "I'd recommend you start listening carefully. You might find the silence isn't empty after all." With that, he walked out. For several moments, the council chamber remained suspended in shocked stillness. Alien leaders who'd faced wars, plagues, and supernovae now sat quietly, unease gnawing at them. The silence of Earth wasn't absence. It was a statement. And the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, realized it might have no idea what humanity was actually capable of. The council chambers had barely cooled from Hale's exit when the first task force mobilized. Silence unsettled species who thrived on predictability. And humanity, once predictable in its noisy chaos, had abandoned the script. The Concordant Council dispatched probes toward Earth within hours. Each one came from a different member race, disguised under research initiatives or routine scans. No one trusted the others to be first with the answers. The first transmission came from a Shinar probe orbiting Earth's moon. The feed flickered across the Council's great holoscreen, Earth, blue and white, gleaming as it always had. No visible devastation. No orbital scars of war. No fleets patrolling its skies. "Pristine," reported the Shinar observer. Their voice quivered like reeds in the wind. "No traffic in orbit. No transmissions leaving the surface. It is asleep." The chamber buzzed. To see Earth so serene, so untouched, unnerved them. "Impossible," hissed Chancellor Dravik. "Where are their vessels? Their freighters, their endless clutter of stations?" The probe swept across the dark side of the planet. The screen showed thousands of points of light, cities still glowing, civilization thriving, but mute. An HFY general leaned forward, antennae trembling. "They are not gone. They are watching." The silence grew heavier, like a weight pressing against every chest. The second probe, launched by the Falari, never returned. Its signal cut out the moment it pierced Earth's ionosphere. The Council's chamber filled with uneasy murmurs. "Destroyed?" asked one delegate. "Intercepted," whispered another. "Perhaps invited in," muttered the HFY general darkly. That was when Ambassador Hale returned, as if summoned by their doubt. He didn't knock. Humans never did. He simply walked into the chamber with a cup of coffee steaming in his hand, the aroma foreign and irritating to most species. He took a seat, set down his briefcase, and smiled pleasantly. "Looks like you've been busy," Hale said. "I noticed the sudden increase in interstellar traffic near Sol. Probes, scouts, the occasional research drone. Cute." Chancellor Dravik snarled. "You interfere with Council operations, Ambassador?" Hale raised his brows. "Interfere? No. I just thought it was polite to inform you that your Falari probe made an unscheduled landing. Beautiful piece of hardware. Shame if anything happened to it." His tone remained polite, conversational, but it twisted through the chamber like a knife. Ambassador Vena of the Siltari, usually soft-spoken, leaned forward. "Why did your people seize it?" Seize. Hale chuckled. Such an aggressive word. We prefer welcomed. After all, if you send uninvited guests to someone's home, isn't it only polite to offer them tea? Or coffee, if they have taste? He lifted his cup. Several species hissed, others clicked in frustration. Dravik slammed the dais. Enough games. Humanity owes this council an explanation. What are you hiding on that planet? Hale sipped his coffee. You assume we're hiding something. Maybe we're just preparing something. The word hung in the chamber like a storm cloud. A Zirathai elder, translucent skin pulsing faintly, spoke with uncharacteristic caution. Preparation for war? Hale leaned back, voice smooth. War? That's such an ugly word. Humans don't start wars. We end them. The silence after that was different. Sharp, brittle, almost afraid to shatter. Council records show that was the moment the first fracture appeared. Several species demanded sanctions, others pushed for immediate fleets near Sol, while a few whispered of retreat. The Avrek general addressed Hale directly. If Earth has chosen silence, we demand to know its conditions. Otherwise, this council will assume hostility. Hale set down his cup. His smile remained, but his eyes had cooled to steel. Assume hostility, if you must. But be very careful about the assumptions you make regarding Earth. He opened his briefcase. Council guards tensed, claws flexing, weapons primed. Hale calmly pulled out a small device, no larger than a datapad, and set it on the table. A map of the Sol system flickered into view, except the Earth they knew was gone, replaced by concentric rings of faintly glowing points. This, Hale said softly, is silence. The points on the map pulsed, one by one. Hidden arrays, cloaked stations, orbital fields invisible to standard scans. The chamber gasped. Humanity's quiet was not empty space, it was layered with unseen defenses. How? One delegate sputtered. Noise distracts, Hale interrupted. Silence? Silence hides teeth. The council erupted. Some demanded immediate confrontation, others whispered to withdraw fleets before they provoked something they could not contain. Dravik rose, scales shimmering with fury. You dare threaten the council with this spectacle? Hale stood as well, voice still calm, still infuriatingly polite. Threaten? No. We don't threaten. We clarify. He snapped the case shut. Earth stopped speaking because we got tired of pretending we were harmless. The words cut deep. Every alien in that chamber felt it, that shift from amusement to dread. The session adjourned in chaos. Delegates stormed out, others lingered in anxious debate. Only the Avrek general stayed behind, mandibles clicking softly. He approached Hale as the chamber emptied. You've made them fear you, the general said. Fear breeds coalitions. Coalitions breed wars. Hale gave a small shrug. Wars end. Fear lingers. Which do you think is more useful? The general studied him for a long moment. You humans play a dangerous game. Hale's smile thinned. Oh, General. You still think this is a game? That night, fleets repositioned across 3 sectors. Trade convoys rerouted to avoid Sol's borders. And across the galaxy, species who once mocked humanity now whispered in private. If Earth had stopped speaking, it wasn't because they had nothing to say. It was because they had already decided what came next. The Concordant Council fractured within days. Half its members urged caution, terrified by Hale's quiet map of Sol's hidden teeth. The other half called it bluff and demanded force. No species wanted to admit fear of a planet that once spammed cat memes across subspace. Fear, however, is loud. Fleets mobilized. The first vanguard came from the Dravik Dominion. Dozens of warships slid into Sol's outer reaches, engines burning like scars across the void. Their commander, Admiral Kor, transmitted on every frequency, his voice thunderous with bravado. Terrans, your silence is an insult. By authority of the Council, you will stand down and reveal your assets, or we will rip your defenses apart. The transmission went unanswered. The ships advanced past Neptune's orbit. Sensors swept. Nothing. No resistance. No warning. Just the eerie quiet of a system that should have been alive with chatter. "Scans are clear," a Dravik officer reported. "No energy signatures, no fleets." Admiral Kor sneered. "All bark. No bite. Advance." Hours later, their lead cruiser vanished. No explosion, no distress call, just gone, as though erased from existence. The fleet halted, alarms blaring. Frantic scans found nothing but faint gravitational anomalies rippling around them. "Sir, it's like the void shifted," the sensor chief stammered. Space itself flexed. Another ship blinked out. Then another. Panic swept the ranks. Crews screamed as screens showed vessels folding inward, crushed into singular flashes of light, devoured by invisible snares. "Retreat!" Kor bellowed. But retreat was meaningless. The anomalies were everywhere, and one by one, his ships winked out, swallowed by silence. The council chamber trembled with uproar when fragments of the disaster reached them. "Impossible!" Dravik Chancellor roared. "Gravitational weapons do not exist at this scale." "Tell that to your admiral," muttered the Avrek general, his antennae twitching. Eyes turned to Hale. As always, he was calm. He set his coffee on the railing, folded his hands, and regarded the storm of alien outrage with faint amusement. "We did warn you," Hale said mildly. "Earth doesn't raise its voice. It shifts the ground under your feet." A Silthari delegate hissed. "Those ships vanished into nothing. What have you unleashed?" "Not unleashed," Hale corrected. "Deployed." Very different tone. Unleashing is sloppy. Deployment is deliberate. The word deliberate cut deeper than any threat. The Avrek general rose again. "Explain, human." Hale tilted his head. "Explain? All right. Have you ever tried to swat a fly only for it to vanish before your hand lands? That's what your fleets are experiencing. Except, you're the flies." His smile was gentle, but the metaphor landed like a blade. Dravik Chancellor slammed his claws on the dais. "You call this diplomacy? This is butchery." "Diplomacy." Hale leaned forward, voice suddenly soft, almost intimate. "Chancellor, this is diplomacy. Do you think Earth wanted silence? Do you think we prefer shadows? We asked to be left alone. You insisted otherwise. Consider this a polite boundary marker." The chamber fell into tense muttering. Delegates who once mocked humanity now spoke only in hushed tones. A few species quietly withdrew their fleets from the sole frontier. Others doubled down, refusing to show weakness. That night, Hale was approached in the observation deck by Vena, the Silthari ambassador. Her translucent features reflected the stars as she regarded him with wary curiosity. "Your people created gravity snares," she said. "That borders on godlike." Hale chuckled softly. "Godlike? Hardly. Just practical. Physics bends if you ask politely and push hard enough." "Polite?" she asked. "Of course. Nature always resists brute force. But finesse? A little charm. That's how you convince the universe to lean your way." She studied him, unsettled. "You terrify them." He sipped his coffee. "We should. Fear makes neighbors respectful." Elsewhere across the galaxy, whispers spread like wildfire. Reports exaggerated each retelling. Fleets crushed in seconds, stars bent, humans walking through shields as if they were smoke. Merchants rerouted entire trade networks. Empires fortified their borders, not against each other, for once, but against Earth. And Earth said nothing. Days later, another fleet assembled. This time it wasn't just Dravik bravado. A coalition task force, 100 strong, massed beyond Sol's rim. Their orders: push inward, force a response, prove humanity was not untouchable. Ambassador Hale watched the holofeed from the council chamber, calm as ever. Brave, he murmured, though not terribly clever. The Evrek general, standing nearby, clicked his mandibles. They will bleed you eventually. Numbers wear down even the strongest walls. Hale's eyes gleamed. Walls? General, you still don't understand. Earth doesn't build walls. The holofeed showed the Coalition armada crossing into the Kuiper belt. Silence enveloped them, broken only by nervous chatter across alien comms. Suddenly, entire sectors lit up, human ships decloaking one after another, sleek and black, sliding from the void like predators stepping from shadow. Thousands. The chamber gasped. Hale didn't. He simply picked up his coffee again, voice smooth. Walls are for those who fear what's outside. Humanity doesn't fear the outside. We build traps. On the screen, the Coalition armada froze. Surrounded on all sides, their weapons primed but useless. The Terran fleet didn't fire. They only waited. That was worse than attack. Because attack could be defended. Waiting meant certainty. Your move, Hale whispered, though his words were not broadcast. Only the Council heard. Only those close enough to feel the cold smile behind them. The chamber went still. For the first time in memory, no alien dared speak. Because silence now belonged to Earth. The chamber lights dimmed to a bruised violet, the kind used in interstellar courts when matters of war teetered on the edge of finality. No one spoke at first. Even the Ventari delegates, whose insectoid limbs usually rattled with impatience, held still. Across the crescent-shaped table, Admiral Corvin's voice finally broke the air. Humans don't go silent by accident, he said, his tone measured but grim. This isn't surrender. It's preparation. The silence across the assembly deepened, pressing in like gravity. High Chancellor Vera, a serpentine leader whose kind thrived on calculating odds, flicked her tongue nervously. You imply the Terrans are staging something? With what? Their colonies are fractured, their fleets scattered, their weapons antiquated compared to the Triarch armadas. Corvin leaned forward, eyes hard. You mistake antiquated for obsolete. Humans don't discard. They repurpose. Every shipyard they abandoned still has teeth. Every derelict hull could be hiding a surprise. The room stirred. Delegates exchanged wary glances, each replaying their own fragments of history. Skirmishes with humans that ended bloodier than projected, campaigns where Terran units fought beyond any sane endurance. From the shadows, Kairos of the Drow Council let out a slow growl. The last time humans went quiet, they leveled an entire coalition fleet at Ebon Reach. My grandfather still carried the scars of that retreat. Vera snapped back. That was centuries ago. They've weakened since then. No, Corvin countered. They've waited since then. The weight of the statement settled like a stone dropped in water. The implication was unbearable. Humanity had learned, adapted, and bided time. At the far end of the chamber, the lone human observer finally stirred. Dr. Elias Rourke had remained silent through hours of debate, hands folded neatly on the table, his expression unreadable. He looked more scholar than soldier, slender, bespectacled, a diplomat by design. But when he spoke, every spine in the room straightened. You assume Earth's silence is a wound, Rourke said softly, his accent precise. But you misunderstand us. Silence, in our culture, has always been choice. The chamber froze. Even the translation nodes faltered for half a breath before rendering his words into a dozen alien tongues. Rourke rose slowly, smoothing the front of his plain dark coat. His voice carried no threat, no bluster, only calm certainty. When wolves hunt, they howl. When humans prepare, we do not. We vanish from your senses. We dim our channels. We erase the chatter you think defines civilization. And when the silence ends, he paused, letting the weight build. So do those who provoked it. Gasps rippled. The Ventari clicked in agitation. The Aurelian envoy's fronds wilted in dread. Even Corvin, seasoned in 100 campaigns, felt his stomach knot. Are you telling us, Vera pressed, voice tight, that your people are already moving? Rourke's faint smile never touched his eyes. I'm telling you, it would be wise not to corner us further. The silence is not a void, it's the drawing of breath before a strike. The words slithered through the chamber like poison. Delegates whispered urgently, their fear dressed up as strategy. Corvin leaned closer, studying Rourke with new caution. If what you imply is true, then Earth has planned for this moment all along. You knew the coalition would push too far. Rourke inclined his head. Let's just say humanity has always been excellent at predicting arrogance. The sting landed. Several delegates bristled, but none rose to challenge him. Aventari finally clattered its limbs against the table. Idle threats. You expect us to believe a fractured world, half in ruins, has been waiting centuries to unleash vengeance. Rourke's reply was gentle, surgical. Not vengeance. Insurance. That single word fractured the chamber more than any insult. Insurance suggested foresight. Preparation. A plan laid long before the galaxy had noticed humanity at all. Kairos's growl deepened. Then where are these so-called fleets of yours? Where are these hidden weapons? Rourke's gaze was steady. Wouldn't you prefer not to find out the hard way? No one missed the implication. The humans hadn't revealed anything tangible, yet the lack of proof only magnified the terror. If even a fraction of his words were true, every fleet movement, every colony push into Terran space might already be walking into a trap. Corvin pushed back from the table, steel returning to his voice. If Earth's silence means what you say, then we're already late. The first strike is coming, and when it does, there will be no warning. The chamber erupted into chaos, arguments, panicked outbursts, desperate calculations. Alliances that had seemed ironclad minutes ago suddenly wavered under the possibility that they had provoked something unstoppable. Through it all, Rourke remained seated again, hands folded, expression as calm as a man waiting for a train that was already on schedule. Vera's voice finally pierced the uproar. We must prepare countermeasures at once. Deploy scouts, expand sensor nets, trace their communication void. If humanity hides a fleet, we will drag it into the light. Rourke tilted his head slightly, as though amused by a private thought. You may search, but you won't find what you're looking for. Earth is not a beacon to be traced, it's a shadow that chooses when to fall. The words landed colder than any declaration of war. For the first time in living memory, an entire galactic assembly felt the presence of something older than their empires, sharper than their logic, and far more dangerous than their fleets. The silence that followed was not human, it was theirs.